Publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. And of course, good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northeast Louisiana, Southeast Louisiana, and every nook and cranny that receives our 100,000 watt transmitter signal that the great folks in the studio are able to maintain somehow 100,000 watts. Anyway, we're going to have a great program for you today. Welcome aboard as well to our international audience, which we get from all over the world, of course, through the magic del internet of the internet. Anyway, I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. I had a great, productive weekend. And of course, I'm still doing my 1-day fast now every Sunday that I'm trying to keep it up. Let's try to get healthy. Anyway, folks, before we get started, let's go to the people who really make this stuff happen. And that's the geniuses in the studio. Buenos dias, mis hermanos favoritos.
Have you seen any of those, Jack?
Favoritos?
Yes, some Favoritos.
Favoritos.
Have you seen any of those?
I don't know.
Do they serve them with queso?
Maybe.
Good morning, Egberto.
Good morning. How's everybody doing?
How do you like my voice this morning?
What's wrong with your voice? It's not, hey, I'm a guy, but still it kind of sounds, that sexy, husky kind of a thing, man.
I don't know. I woke up this morning and thought, I guess because my throat was dry overnight, I don't know, probably snoring too much. Okay, I have something I want to start off with here. It is a quote,
yes.
And I'm not going to tell you where it comes from, but I think you'll figure it out. Primary rules are: never allow the public to cool off, never admit a fault or wrong, never concede that there may be some good in your enemy, never leave room for alternatives, never accept blame, concentrate on one enemy at a time and blame them for everything that goes wrong. People will believe a big lie sooner than a little one. And if you keep repeating it frequently enough, sooner or later, people will later believe it.
Man.
So, there you go.
I know who it describes. I don't know who said it.
Sounds like.
I'm not going to tell you who said it.
You're not going to tell me who said it? Was that you, maybe?
No, it wasn't me. This was invented in the 30s and the 20s. And
oh, wow.
We're seeing it come alive today in a presidential campaign. I did nothing wrong. Why are you persecuting me? The crooked Joe Biden. Oh, he's responsible for every ill you face today. So, see, words from the 20s and 30s that built a dynasty and empire are alive and well today. America, beware.
Very good advice, brother. Very good advice.
Good.
Very good.
Okay, Jack's got a page of wisdom here too, so let's go ahead and get to him.
It wasn't as good as that. I'm going to have a hard time following you up on that one. That was great.
That was brilliant. Yeah.
Just a little research and yeah, just a little research. You'll find that the big lie of the 21st century is the election was stolen from me. Oh, those evil riggers of elections. Oh, that rigged jury. Oh, that rigged this. Those are lies that you don't believe because they're so out there, Anyway, that's enough for me.
Okay, well, my little deal is going to be on crime and punishment this morning. When I think about crime, I think about law. They seem to have an inverse relationship. Does more law cause more crime, or does more crime cause more law? In the crime and punishment model, the criminal makes restitution to the state. It's time to change to a model that makes restitution to the victim.
Amen.
Yes.
That is so
wasting lives. Quit wasting lives sitting in prison when they could be out being productive and making restitution.
Yeah, quit making money off of criminals.
Right. Off
I,
their misery.
when you look at how our economic system corrupts everything, because again, every time you look for a solution that says before we can have a solution, we have to see how we can profit from it. Jails, all these things of whenever you hear folks trying to turn over everything public to the private sector for some crony to make a dollar, that's what we're talking about. Now, Norway, I'm glad you brought that up, and this is off my topics, but I think it's important for people to understand because if you Jack, if you go out there and talk about crime and law and order and all of that, people want law and order. People want to be able to get out in their neighborhoods and walk around, etc. People want to know that they're unlikely to get shot. And we have a party right now that even as they speak law and order, the policies that they put out there are the antithesis of law and order. I want to read something here from while you were talking, I went and looked it up because I know that there is a justice system in one of the countries. It happens to be a Scandinavian country that does exactly what you just said about restoration, Jack. And it goes like this: Norway's, and I'm reading this from Google. I just did a quick search while you were talking. Norway's criminal justice system is known for its restorative justice and rehabilitation principles and is considered one of the most effective and humane in the world. The system's main goal is social defense, which is achieved through resocialization and general deterrence of offenders. The system's approach is based on the idea that quarantine is enough to keep the public safe and that the primary purpose of incarceration is to protect the public from those who are at a risk rather than a punishment. The system also emphasizes the eventual reintegration of offenders into society as law abiding citizens. And that sounds like a hard thing to do, but they do it all of the times. And that's not to say that they're not criminals in Norway, but the way they handle it, they have one important recognition. Unless you're going to keep somebody locked up, incarcerated for the rest of their lives and keep them, even according to what Norway says, which is keep the risk away from the population at large. That's understood. That's lock them up. Lock them up is keep the risk away from the population. But the other thing is, when somebody commits a crime, is that crime going to keep them away from society forever? If the answer is no, then you better make sure that where you're locking them up, you create that environment that makes them reintegratable into society, which is what we don't do. When our criminals go to the cell, to jail, or to prison, they come out better criminals that are harsher, do more damage, etc., than had they not been caught in the first place. So, I mean, it may feel good to lock folks up and throw away the key, but unless you're going to keep them locked up for doing what they do, society is going to progressively get worse as these people go into prison, come out worse, go into prison, come out worse, etc. And guess what? We see a lot of the manifestation of that in different communities. So I hope, Jack, that what you're saying is heeded. Eric Hayes is in the chat and he says low or no bonds equal more victims will be found due letting criminals out and no accountability. And the statement is partially true. But the other part of the statement is, are we going to invest in rehabilitation? But the other thing is, are we going to invest in making sure that the problem doesn't occur at all? I mean, here are all, when we look at the policies on the right, I want you to think of it. We flood the zone with guns. We make it extraordinarily easy for people to get guns. That's number one. Number two, we scoff at policies that tries to keep kids, young people at their formative years from being so entertained in other positive driven things that they find they find lack of supervision, etc., an option that creates criminality. Third, we have a state that, because some don't want to pay taxes, etc., prevent programs from being created that actually uh, prevents poverty. And what we know is that poverty itself creates crime. A poor family where the mother and father has to work more than 40 hours a week and the kids are latchkey kids and stay home, that poverty is causal for the lack of supervision of that kid that ultimately potentially turns that kid into a criminal. So we have the preponderance of guns. We have an economic system that doesn't make sure, or that doesn't give the parents the ability to be good parent, to have good parenting, and at the same time we don't want to pay for programs that aids the parents, meaning if we had after school programs everywhere that kids could be supervised, etc., that would take care of that. So we have a country where one particular party supports policies that creates the fertile ground for creating criminals, and then at the same time the solution of that criminality is further private sector investment in all the tools necessary to attack those criminals, put away those criminals, make money off of those criminals. It costs over $50,000 a year to maintain a criminal in jail. Imagine if we use that to give them an education. Imagine if we did that to make sure that the parents could take care of their kids. Imagine if we did that to give them programs that prevented this in the first place. But do we hear about that? No. What's so interesting is that this same sect that don't support those types of policies is the same sect that talk about family values. It's the same sect that talk about the sanctity of life. Yet the policies supported are all anti these particular programs. So while I wasn't intending to speak about any of this, I'm glad that Jack brought up this situation, because we're going to hear a whole lot of law and order over this election cycle, and we're not going to have any critical thinking about it. We're going to just have people making statements from the hip and not saying, if we really want to solve these problems, what are the steps that are necessary? What are the policies that are necessary? Do we really want to solve this problem, or do we just want to talk about this problem? Thank you very much, Jack. That was marvelous. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to bring that up. Today's program is titled Red States Politicians, Bad Projection, May 2025 Jobs Report, and Will Biden Learn from 1968? Eric is bringing up topics of defund the police, etc. The police, and I think it warrants an answer, because the moniker defund the police, in my opinion, was a terrible moniker, not because it's not something that needs to be explored, but it's because it's something that can be demagogued by both people, but by racists and many others. Okay? So let me explain something. Policemen, policewomen are not sociologists, psychologists. They are not people who know how to handle these particular issues. So if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And to police officers, when they go to solve a problem, they walk there with their guns and their attitudes. That's all a police brings to any situation: guns and attitude. No particular intellect, because they don't. I'm talking intellect on the subject. No, if they're not a psychologist, a family planner, those kinds of things, they don't bring that to the table. They bring a gun and their attitudes to the table. Now, how is that? Why is that? Because all our money go into these guys with guns and batons. Now we have a country like England, lower crime rate, etc. The cops don't even walk around with a gun. There's not a whole lot of guns in people's hands, and you don't have the crimes that we have over here with guns. So when people were talking about defund the police, what many people were saying is reallocate monies that are going to the police to where it really should be. A call comes in with a family dispute. Is the police the first person that should go there, or should somebody competent in the psychology of family dynamics that should go over there and cool things down? And we have issues over and over again that we should have agencies that do that. Just like we have the police agency to handle crime, violent crime, we should have some other agency that handles these other kinds of calls. Not one where the police feel that they can use the only weapon they know how to use, a gun. Come on, that is what that really meant, Eric. Before I go to the subject at hand, since I got a call, let's go to Donald. Donald is on line one. Folks, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. And good morning to my good brother Donald. Talk to me.
Good morning, Alberto. How are you today?
I am doing fine, especially having hearing one of my good right-wing brothers. Love to hear your voice, sir.
Hey, you sounded like John Lennon there for a second with all your imagine.
I love John Lennon.
But okay, on defund the police and all that good stuff, you've got to look at the fact that the next time you start looking at some of these people, they have defects. Either they're short in stature, they have an attitude. That's normally the people who are having problems. You can't bring military people into civilian life. Those make the worst cops unless they have a good heart. The problem is there's no heart in anything. It's all about numbers. It's all about money. It's all about everything. And you're correct on that. But it's like the politicians and everything. If people have defects, they've been bullied as kids, or they have a skewed view on life. And they bring that to their power position. It's like a DA. If a DA gets a certain number of prosecutions and a certain number of pleas and they're tough on crime, they advance up the ranks. If a cop is, writing a certain amount of tickets, blah, 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 you need to change the whole dynamics and quit basing everything on this false reward system. You're doing your job. Some of the best people in cops in the world, they're never recognized for good. They only get recognized when they do bad. And that's the problem. It's our whole system, and you're correct on that. It's a criminal. If you lock somebody in a cage, they will become the animal that you portray them to be. Believe it or not, it is true. And there are bad people that need to be locked up. That's just, they can't be fixed. They're so damaged. Now, if we could take a bigger state that has excess land and we create like a false city where they can be productive, but they're still in quarantine kind of, but not like a prison with walls, but like an open air prison kind of, sort of. That's the only way we can rehabilitate people. If they have a drug issue, you've got to take them out of okay, they had that issue in that area. For them to bond out and go right back to the area, they are going to redo the exact same that got them in there in the first place. So if you put them out on a farm or picking peaches or whatever you want to do with them, but you just have to monitor them closely, and that's how you revive people. That's what we're looking. We need to revive and make them relive. We need to relive them. They need to be brought back to life because they've been pushed down by a system that they cannot comprehend how it works. But if you give them something that they can be productive at, then they will be productive. People want to do good, but when you're in an environment that's nothing but bad, you're only going to keep getting bad out of it.
Let me tell you something, Donald. I didn't even interrupt you. You were hitting all the points, brother. I mean, every single point you hit was on Let me just tell you how correct it is. And then I'm going to say, you're my MAGA brother, but you sure are a progressive brother. That's all I'm going to tell you. I've never seen a MAGA progressive like you before, but you just nailed it. You just nailed it.
All right, man, that was it. But you keep on imagining. We're gonna one way or another. We're gonna figure out how to fix it because we
Thank
have
you.
to. If not, we're gonna be back in the Wild West again. All right, take it easy, Berto.
Thank you, brother. You have a good one. Anyway, folks, wow. That was, I mean, he nailed just about every single one of the topics there with regards to criminality and how to solve the issues. He nailed it, both from attitudes of people, who you get to be police, etc. Wow. That was very good, brother Donald. That was very, very good. Anyway, the first thing I want to touch on is let's see, the first topic was reaction to the Great Jobs Report. And what I want to do is I want to play that one and then we'll take that on. You know what? It's interesting. I said I was going to do that, but I didn't cue that one up first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and play the red state politicians must stop projecting homicide. So let's go ahead and do that one, and then I'll take it on the other side. A few months ago, I pointed out some data that showed that predominantly the states that are dependent on the federal government to keep their books black, to make sure that their people are cared for, are generally red states. This is not up for conjecture. That's just a statement of fact. These low cost, low tax rate red states normally take a lot more from the federal government, and the blue states are ultimately the ones supporting them. That's a statement of fact. So there's a myth that goes around that somehow, because we have people moving to red states, mostly for economic reasons, make a lot of money in blue states, it goes a lot further in red states after you've taken what you needed to take out of the blue states. Now, but when it comes to criminality, the same applies. We have most of the folks on the red side constantly preaching, oh my God, we are somehow in the crime rate is exploding in Baltimore, Maryland. The crime rate is exploding in Chicago, Illinois. You know, they take select states and select parts of states to show high crime and make it seem as if it is something across the board. Well, the good thing is always to have data, and that we have. How homicide rates by US states have changed. And if you take a look at red states versus blue states, what you're going to find is that the red states do terribly when it comes to the homicide rates, crimes. And, you know, that is to be expected. You invest less in your people. Guess what happens? Your people do what people in difficulties, what people have issues with. You get those types of problems. That's why the same problems you see in poor barrios, you see in ghettos, and you see in Appalachia, they mirror each other. Because again, it's a socio-economic issue. Murder rates, etc. So what would you expect in poorer states? What would you expect with a poorer population where they're trying to fend for themselves, when they're trying to make it however they can, and some people use it by all means necessary? And if you take a look at the homicide rates, we had one of our Politics Done Right posse members sent me this link today, and I said, you know what, I'm going to make this a part of the show. In effect, if you take a look at between 2012 and 2022, crime in the aggregate went up. All right, I repeat, between 2012 and 2022, homicide rates went up. But it's not even. Where did it really go up? Mississippi saw a 103% increase. Louisiana, a 64% increase. Alabama, a 71% increase. Missouri, a 75% increase. Arkansas, a 39% increase. South Carolina, a 44% increase. Georgia, 74% increase. Tennessee, 49% increase. Alaska, 104% increase. I mean, and we go on and on and on and see how Texas, 49% increase. You see how, California, the one that everybody likes to hate on, 13% increase. All right. New York, another one they like to hate on, 22% increase. But here is the kicker. Connecticut, super blue state. New Jersey, super blue state. 20.8% decrease for New Jersey, 2.3% decrease for Connecticut. So here's the deal. From 2012 to 20, homicide rates increase in every state with available data except Connecticut, New Jersey, and Rhode Island. And what it turns out to be is that the southern state, this is a list of the southern states: Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Missouri, Arkansas, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee. Notice in that group, only New Mexico and Maryland can somehow be considered somewhat blue states. When we talk about projection, this is what we're talking about. Republicans and red states governments and red state politicians project the bad things that are happening everywhere else, when all they need to do is look in their backyard to see what needs cleaning up. Because they need to clean it up, and they need to use some of that blue state money that they're sucking on to clean it up. They need to stop misinforming the good citizens of their states, the good Republicans of their states, the good Democrats of their states, the good independents and unaffiliated of their states. They need to stop lying to them, fooling them into believing that things are how they're not. Let's be real. The numbers don't lie. These red states in the aggregate are takers from blue states. These red states in the aggregate are more violent. More people get killed. These states in the aggregate, people have shorter lifespans. We spoke about that in other blogs as well. People in this state, in these red states, have less insurance, less health care, on and on and on and on. Is that the America that you want? Is that the America that you think is this great bastion of independence, of freedom? Folks, stop listening to the misinformers. Join the Politics Done Right family, and let's all stay informed. If you want to get all this sort of information and keep this going, there are many ways to sign up for getting our newsletter, etc. Go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Sign up for a newsletter. We put all this sort of information out. Or if you want to see all the platforms that we're on, go to politicsdoneright.com/info. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. If you want to see about our newsletters, and it's right there in the bottom of the screen where you can get that link, or visit all our platforms, politicsdoneright.com/info. We spend a lot of time. Let me tell you something else that I put out, because I wrote a blog post for that specifically, and I ended it with a conclusion that kind of ties it up, and it said the following: the data on homicide rates and federal dependency paints a clear picture. Red states face significant challenges that cannot be ignored. It is time for red state politicians to stop projecting their issues onto blue states and take responsibility for addressing the systemic problems within their own jurisdictions. We need to tell Abbott that. We need to tell all these politicians out there that are lying to the citizens of Texas and many other red states. By investing in public services and creating opportunities for their residents, red states can break the cycle of poverty and crime, ultimately creating safer and more prosperous communities for all. This shift in focus will not only benefit the residents of red states, but also contribute to a more balanced to more balanced and equitable. So, folks, don't buy into the crap. One of the reasons I've dedicated so much time in writing all this stuff, in doing all these videos, and trying to give it mass appeal is because we are in danger right now. We are in danger in allowing ourselves to if you listen to what Howard spoke about, that 1920 something document. I'm coming to you, Johnny. That 1920 something statement that he made about tell people that these things, and you know what? They'll believe the biggest lie before they believe the smallest lies. They will believe if you leave a vacuum of disinformation, misinformation, ill information. If you leave a vacuum, it'll be filled. Johnny, I'm coming to you in a second, but I want to address something that Eric said. Like, let's give an example here. Eric goes ahead and he puts out there that the jobs report that we just spoke about, we had a whole lot of new jobs that got created, 200 something thousand jobs, right? And the right has to find a way to make it seems like the country is in dire straits. It's not working. People are not really working. Don't believe the data, right? So he comes out and he says most of those jobs are really government jobs, right? And Eric is not a bad person. I know the guy. He's a good guy, but he's simply ill-informed, misinformed, disinformed. All he had to do is pull the document out, the jobs report out. And I just want to read from the jobs report. Remember, the jobs report says non-farm payroll employment increased by 272,000. All right. And he claimed, most of these jobs, though, are government jobs. As if even if they were government jobs, I don't have a problem being a government job. A job is a job is a job. It's paying income. It's creating money into the economy. But that is what they want to use. Oh, somehow it's a government job that caused that job increase. Right there in black and white. I brought down the PDF, and Eric, you should consider reading real information. The PDF says government employment continued to trend up in May, and of that $272,000, 43,000 were for government. Okay? So here we go. The black and white data is there for you. 68,000 was in healthcare. 35,000 or 42,000 was in leisure and hospitality. None of that's government. So there you go. We have somebody on the internet, because of the information he goes, promoting lies. Now, what do you think about the credibility? Well, anyway, let's go to Johnny. Come on in, Johnny.
Good morning, Gilberto. So, listening to Ronald McDonald a moment ago, two things come to mind.
Mm-hmm.
You remember George Carlin? He did this whole thing about open air prisons. He said we should dedicate one state somewhere, maybe in the Midwest, that's a nice square or rectangle that we could put a big fence around, and you put a door at the bottom of it, and it opens up every once in a while at random for 10 seconds, 30 seconds, for which people could get in and out. You remember that?
I don't, but it just sounds funny. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then I thought about, open air prisons. Ronald McDonald talked about open air prisons like Gaza. You see, when you institutionalize something like that, you got to watch out, because you always have people on the far right who aspire to political elected office, and once they get involved in decision making, guess what? Things go south. So here's my not a solution, but here's my approach. How about, instead of drafting people or cajoling people out of high school into the military, why not encourage them in the same way you have recruitment offices for military? How about we have recruitment offices for journalism? You have you serve 2, 3, 4 years after high school. You learn how to gather information in a professional manner. You are assigned to any one of a number of local or maybe regional or national press outfits. You serve that way. And after college, you can be drafted into working as a police officer for 3, 4, 6 years instead of going overseas to learn how to kill and break things. How about that? And how about this also? For people who have social redeeming value problems, how about you assign them to work, to volunteer, so-called volunteer, you give them a stipend for working in animal shelters. How about that?
Let me tell you, Johnny, I am for anything that works. And if people have ideas, and a lot of these things, you have to throw spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks. So, look, I'm not going to demean any ideas from anybody, but I tell you one thing I did like. I when Donald called, I really, especially coming from Donald, I really love a lot of what he said. Now, when you speak about what people could do with this supposedly open air prison, let me just say that there are these open air prisons right now in Norway, right? Where it actually, when he talked about caged animals, if you put somebody in a cage, don't expect them not to act like a cage animal. And the guy in Pennsylvania, he went into one of those inner city schools and he forced them to take down all the cages for exactly that same manner that Donald spoke about, because he said you put kids in an environment where they're expected to act like animals, they'll do exactly that. And he kind of turned around
Right.
or some schools. So I hear you. And by the way, the issue on the right, I'm going to tell you something, and this is what I want. It's one of the subjects of the discussion today, right now, because let me take my host hat off. There are two people running for election, Trump and Biden, and my vote will be for Biden, and I'm just saying that straight out. But do I like Biden? No, I think Biden is doing a whole lot of things that are dangerous right now for the American people. I just think that I know that Donald Trump is just more dangerous. And not only that, a lot of the things that he would do would cause systemic change to the country. Um, but here's what I'm saying. And the reason I brought that up in the first place, I want us to stop. By the way, the right, demonstrably, the policies are bad, but they're also the folks that we would call Democrats implementing policy not far removed from what we consider things that the people on the right would do. And to that, I say, let's better watch our own mayor here for some of the comments that he himself have made recently. But again, so it is more
The real
about
mayor.
people who, say that again.
You mean the real mayor, the one who was supposedly elected? The
Yeah, I don't
dino.
mean you. I didn't say mayor of politics. I meant mayor of Houston. Forgive me for not clarifying that. Forgive me for not clarifying that. But what I
Yeah.
think is important is when I see a brother like Donald come out with such great ideas, which I think he did. Okay, I don't care where it comes from.
I give him credit.
Uh,
Give him credit for
yes,
he's trying to think outside the box. So we're moving
exactly.
forward. That's good.
Absolutely. And let me tell you something. When I hear somebody that, and the brother Donald always comes in here and go Trump, all that good stuff, right? But then he comes up with ideas that somebody like Trump would never think about or talk about doing. That just tells me that the tenet that I believe in about all these folks being good people, everybody, that most people are good people. It just proves the point. So
What's
so
going to
anyway,
floor me?
go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Johnny.
You know what's going to floor me? The day that our brother from a different mother, totally, the other right wing guy, whose
Hmm.
name escapes me right now,
Right.
is when he calls in not to do a gotcha with you, but actually tries to think outside the box also for moving
If you're
forward.
talking about Brian, Brian
That's
has done
right,
that several
Brian. That's
times.
right, Brian. Brian, if
He
you're
has done.
listening, I know you're a smart guy. I know
He's
you're
a
a
smart
smart
guy.
guy. All time.
Brian.
I'd like to hear some outside the box from you.
Hey, look, I like
Uh,
Brian. Brian several times. He likes to get me, okay, and that's good. I think that's important. Keep me on my toes, Brian. But there are times Brian call in and just say
Brian.
something that's like, "Oh, I agree." You
Brian
know.
could walk and chew gum at the same time. Let's hear some forward thinking from Brian. I'm tired of hearing about, did you know that this and did you know that? I'm tired of hearing about that. We don't need that. You know, I
Hey,
heard on NPR this morning, I was reminded of the fact that the deep ocean currents are slowing down. We're in
oh, that's
trouble, though.
dangerous.
We need
Yes,
outside
yes.
box thinking for things that to do with our lives. We're in the same
Johnny,
boat here, literally.
Johnny, I got to go to Augie, but I want people to realize when you talk about the ocean currents slowing down, let me tell you, Great Britain at its latitude should not have the pretty good weather that it has. It's only the Gulf
Yeah, they're
Stream
blowing
that is
wine
keeping it
now.
warm.
They're
When that
blowing
changes,
wine grapes. That's sacrilege. They should be
right.
eating cheese and having bad teeth.
I got to let you go, Johnny. I got to go to Augie. Thank you so kindly for calling in, my brother. All right, let's go to Augie. Come on in, Augie.
Buenos dias to my three
Buenos
favoritos.
días,
Voices.
hermano. ¿Cómo estás?
Oh, bien. But I wanted to call Friday when you started having technical difficulties, and Howard was talking about the AT&T. But
Mm,
anyway, Friday I wanted to call because Joe was talking about there's no climate change, and he was saying that what he based it on was Google. But and he was giving you these other facts about centuries way back how the weather was, but he left out a big thing. Back then, there was no industrial age. Industrial age came in at the started in the late 1800s, and that's when the climate started to go haywire. Uh, People wanted to cut down all the trees. There's a billionaire in River Oaks wanted to cut down all the redwood trees and cut them into lumber and sell them to Japan. Others are blowing them up the mountains in Appalachia for mining, and
mhm.
others are polluting the oceans and the waters all over the place. And there goes our climate because of what man is doing, not what happened 1,000 years ago. And that reminds me of on the Fox News, besides Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson, used to be a guy named Glenn Beck. And I saw two of his shows. One of them, and his show would start with a blackboard, and he'd have all these topics. And he said he knew better about all these topics, and one of them was climate change, than the professors who spent their lives and their whole jobs studying climate change. And the second show I saw of his was his last show. And then he acknowledged he was a dummy. He didn't know anything about climate change and all that. And then he went off of Fox News. But as for Howard, he was having trouble with AT&T Friday because of your technical issues. I just wanted to tell Howard that AT&T is not really in the communications business anymore. It's in the entertainment business. Their certificates. They don't give you certificates anymore when you buy shares. But there's shareholder meetings every year, and I get this letter. Instead of saying AT&T shareholders, it says Warner Discovery. Warner Discovery, they're going into the entertainment business. Not
Right.
And I guess I can talk to Howard about the problems he had because I had them too. But anyway, no, just thanks for all you do and let people know there's an election going on right now that most people don't know about.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. Yes.
Noriega and Adelaku, I think I said his name right.
Right. Adelaki. I had her on Friday.
Yeah, everybody should go out there and vote right now. It's real easy. There's only two positions, and these two people are on it, and people should vote for them. Hey, people, get out there and vote. Instead of talking about stuff, you can do something and vote.
Thank you, Augie, for reminding me about that. I believe it or not, it was on my list to do. You're still in early voting, and I think the election is actually occurring on the 15th. So please, folks, go out there and vote. You've heard Paloma Adeleki on my program, as well as you heard Melissa Noriega on my program, who are both running for the Harris County appraisal district. It affects your taxes. If you want to ensure that things are done right, please remember, let's do things right. Thank you very much, Augie. Let's go to Brian. Brian, are you there?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. But hold on a second. Before I go to Brian, I want to throw it to stay right there, Brian. Hey, go ahead, Howard, real quick.
Oh, I wanted to tell Augie to give me a call on the business line about 7:30.
All
He
right, you
knows the
hear
number.
that? Okay, great, great, Augie. All right, let's go, Brian.
Okay. The mayor of New York City, this took place about 3 weeks ago, and it didn't get any air coverage at all. Freudian slip on his part, I guess. He wants to give the illegal aliens a quicker pathway to get a job.
Mhm.
And he said we need lifeguards, and
Mhm.
they all know how to swim real well. He actually said that.
Okay.
Do you understand what that means?
Well, I
They
mean, I
swim.
think I think you're gonna try to say, well, they came over the river or something like that, so maybe they can swim, and you want to say that it's a slur, etc. And the truth of the matter is, I
Yes.
think it is. Yeah. And by the way, I don't. I'm not gonna argue the point with you or try to make it what it's not. The slur, these kind of slurs don't look. You want me to tell you what? One of my good friends that I went to Blinn College called me when he got mad at me one time. He said, "You damn import, you." No, this is what he said. "You damn import, you damn black Mexican." That's what another guy told me. So I mean, and did I hold that against him or whatever? Look, I think those kind of isms are wrong, and whoever says it, it's wrong. So I'm not going to argue with you about that, Brian. It's wrong.
Yeah. Well, why now? If a Republican would have said something like that, we'd still be hearing about it on the news today. Even though
Yes,
it
you're
took
right.
place.
And yes, and look, I'm not going to argue with you about that either. But let me just give you that there is a particular reason why. Okay, and that is whereas progressives and Democrats, etc., they try to make sure that these issues get coverage. The converse is not true with Republicans. Don't you agree with that?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
The other
so
thing I'm going to talk about taxes real quick.
yes,
I just had to have my truck inspected.
uh-huh,
Okay, cost me $25.50 to get it inspected.
yes,
$76 to
right,
get the inspection through the state.
okay,
Okay, I have to take the toll road every day. We
right,
through our tax paid for the toll road. When I use the
yes,
toll road, I have to pay a toll.
yes,
I have to pay road tax. I have
yes,
to pay all these taxes.
yes.
But yet, who gets the blame for not paying enough taxes? The rich people.
Okay,
If you
let me
read to a decision point, go ahead.
okay, let me just tell you about the toll road. I don't believe in toll roads. I think toll roads are double taxation. Okay, so I am with you with regards to toll road. Unfortunately, the people who privatize our roads are guys like brother uh, 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 or Abbott and all these guys. They want toll roads because I mean, in fact, some of our toll roads are done by foreign companies who make profits from you and me whenever we use the toll. So there's another set of intersectionality right there with what we believe in, brother. Continue.
Okay. Now, I'm being taxed when I make money, when I
Yes.
save money,
Yes.
it's double and triple taxation.
Can I stop you right there? And you know what? I wish you would join my. Let me stop you there, Brian, because you're right. You pay taxes on. You bought your home. You pay every year. You pay taxes on that home. It's called property taxes, but it's really a tax on your asset. Do you agree with that? That's what you pay. You agree with that, right?
What? It's an asset and I should pay tax on it?
No, no. I'm just saying that's what happens right now. It's an asset that you are paying taxes on. Correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, the
Okay.
wealthy.
Read.
Now, here, let me finish. I'm making a point here. The wealthy people, the people who have mega amount of taxes or certain types of financial instruments, those are assets as well. Your biggest asset is likely your home, several $100,000. The wealthy person, major asset is a piece of a company that they own or a transaction that indirectly gives them a piece of that company. It's called stocks or some other financial instrument. They don't pay taxes on that. And by the way, most of the money in this country is locked up in that kind of asset. They pay zero taxes on that asset, and if they happen to sell that asset, they pay a lower rate on the income they have generated from that asset. While brother Brian every year pays asset taxes on his car, called the property tax for your car, the property tax for your home, or if you're a renter, a part of your rent goes to the property taxes that the renter pays. What I'm saying is, you hear me about how the rich take advantage of us. That is one of the reasons. We pay taxes on every asset we own. They don't. And if they and the sum total of all of their assets is way more than the sum total of all the assets of all the middle class and poor people in America. If they paid their fair share on those assets, we would not have to pay as much as we do. Do you see the point I'm trying to make, Brian?
Okay, read the book.
No, I'm asking you. No, wait, hold on, Brian. We're having a conversation. Did you understand the point that I just made?
I'm trying to make the point by answering you.
Go
Read
ahead.
the book, Points by George Bush, page 444. He raised the tax on the ultra rich.
Mm-hmm.
He raised taxes on the rich.
Mm-hmm.
That's a proven point. He did not lower the tax. Okay. President Kennedy, during his era, lowered the tax on the rich, which spurred the economic growth of the 70s. He lowered the tax.
Okay. Let me correct that.
What? Go ahead.
You have to be careful. Okay,
Factual.
I just need to correct you. I just have to correct you. We can't leave that out there. You have to be careful, Brian. Look, all right, George Bush wrote a book and said that. Guess what? I wrote a book and I said the opposite. And the opposite, I had the numbers to back it up. My book, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, I give all the numbers that prove that no, that's not true. Bush did raise taxes on the wealthy. And by the way, the other thing that I prove not true is that it's a fallacy to say that tax cuts give a better return than instead spending in the money. It's a lie. It's a lie that's been told by our media. It's a lie that's been told over and over again. We can go through how a dollar is spent and prove, again, not by inference, but prove mathematically, tax cuts does not make an economy go better than spending money into the economy. It's just not true. But Brian, I got to go to Joe, and I don't want to leave him with no time to speak. But